Hey everybody, and welcome back to the mainstream. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and you know what? Joe Turk was one of the first people on the mainstream, I think, back in the day when I was doing this on Podbean or something, some other way I was doing it. But please welcome Joe Turk. How you doing?
Doing pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, it was one of the first episodes, I think, or the first season, maybe. I
It was
I
the
can't
first
remember.
season. I don't remember what episodes necessarily, but apparently there's only one season of it, and this is the second season. So I think because they've already been doing a Hollywood Boulevard podcast and
Yeah.
it's a little similar, I thought I would just do that and everything. But I've
hmm
decided that this we could have some fun with this one, and so I decided to. So this, as everybody knows, we decided to do the Karate Kid franchise. And I think I'm even gonna do the freaking terrible one, the
Which
was
one's that?
the remake, you know.
The part
Uh,
four or five or
no, the
remake?
remake. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think I'm gonna have to do that. I've never even seen it, but I've heard so many bad things. If I like it, I'm gonna be so mad at myself, like because I almost feel like it's cheating, you know.
Well, it's probably one of those things. Even if it's slightly bad, that it's been talked so bad on that seeing it now, it might not be. We might be like pleasantly surprised because I haven't seen it either. And I guess
No.
it's part of the canon now. I guess because they're supposedly bringing it all together. But
We'll
in any
see.
case,
I'm No
I'm going to
offense
give it a
though,
shot.
I'm not a big fan of Jaden Smith as a person. As an actor, yeah, he still hasn't. I still am not a fan, but I think Jaden Smith and just just never interested me as a as an actor.
keep
But
keep his name out of your mouth. That's his dad.
yeah, that would be his dad telling me that. But you know what? Uh. Maybe you'll turn me around. I don't know. I just always
Yeah,
thought
I can't say one way or another. I think I've only seen him in was it After Earth? Probably the only thing I've seen him in, and maybe something else. But
right.
um uh but I guess yeah, to be a completeness with the whole series and stuff like that, it's probably a good idea to see it.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna end up reviewing on mainstream on the mainstream. I'm gonna be reviewing the next one, the newest one when that comes out. So that'll be a fresh one. But I'm hoping this lasts up until then, or whatever, doing the Karate Kid ones and whatnot. We'll see how it goes. And we're gonna be doing Cobra Kai. I'm trying to bring as many of the guests that special guests that have, that partaken in this and bring them back for that. That should be fun. So
That
we'll
that would be fun if you got each person from like part each of the four parts or five parts if you do the other movie and stuff like that.
that'd be
If
four,
if you
five. Yeah,
It'd
five
be
parts. Yeah.
yeah,
So we'd have
if you
five
brought
special
everybody
guests
together.
and me. That would
We
be
have
an
like we
interesting thing.
It'd be like a round table. You have to have a referee giving people time to
Well,
talk.
moderator, yeah, it'd be me as the
Yeah.
moderator. I'd be telling people, all right, yeah, what do you think? And I think that's gonna end up being the thing. And then I don't know who I'd have for the remake reboot or whatever, but probably a new special guest for that. But anyway, I'm really excited to talk about this because uh if you know a lot of people who know me personally, and I think Joe, you've known this, but I wasn't a fan of the first or the Karate Kid Part Two. Like I always liked Karate Kid One and then three and then two. Wait, no, I actually usually put the next Karate Kid above two. And then two would be like that was normally my ranking was like last was part two. And
I think
then
he's mentioned something about that in the Cobra Kai discussions that we had a while back. But yeah, that's you must have been really just having a off day when you saw part two originally, or maybe it was just because you saw it as a kid.
I saw it as a kid. I don't really like all I remember was going to Okinawa and a couple of the cool scenes. I as a kid I just wasn't attracted to the landscape and stuff and the history and the amazing breathtaking stuff, in it. Like I just it wasn't for me at the time as a kid. Like I wanted the Karate Kid to be bullied in America. I basically wanted a a remake of the first one, just done with all the same cast, basically, which is kind of what we get in part three. Like it's close enough where it's, it has a similar thing. This movie, I never realized or never thought about it or whatever. This movie is very much a continuation, but also sort of feels like, they redo a lot of the same tropes from the first movie, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I didn't mind that. Like I really liked it. Um,
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, I remember that they were wrestling with whether they were going to do what became part three as two, or what they did as part two as part three. So it was like which one was going to be done in which order.
Hmm.
But personally, I'm glad they did this one, because to me, this is sort of like, now I'm not going to put it in the class, obviously, like Godfather one and two. They're sort of like bookends to each other. But that's the way I view Karate Kid in this world. It's like sort of a bookend movies together to me. And then three and four is a little different story for me. But two really resonates with me as a nice continuation of part one, like you were saying.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start at the beginning of the story. So we have like we were talking about it earlier on the phone that basically there's this big ass recap of the first movie that kind of, I mean, it's for the whole main credits, but like they kind of drag it out. Like it's a lot of,
Yeah,
stuff that explains sort of, it's like, oh, in case you missed number one, we'll fill you in, and it's gonna be a lot of, stuff that might come back later, or whatever. Um,
yeah. It was like 5 minutes, I think. Just the recap before they did the post tournament scene. But
yeah.
yeah, I think the recap with the opening credits was like 5 minutes long, of highlights, if you will, with the music and the credits.
Yep. And then as you said, it's the post tournament. So we see that uh Daniel Russo has kicked Johnny in the face, which should be the people have said many times that should have been disqualification, but I mean technically you're not supposed to kick anybody in the face. Like that's not I've been, and I talked about this on the last Karate Kid one I did with John Ward, but I was in, I was in karate, but I've done tournaments, you know.
Mhm.
Um, I've actually gotten gold belts in tournaments and AAU tournaments. So I didn't win a big giant trophy because that's not what they had. They had medals, and
Yeah,
stuff and at the AAU ones. And so I would go there and practice. I think I got a gold trophy for katas, and I don't know if I did very well for Kumite. Like he did. I'm not the Karate Kid. Never was the Karate Kid. I did get bullied in middle school. I did not very much in high school, but which you think that's the place where you do get bullied a lot more, but no, not for me. It was more middle school for me. And I learned karate, and so I sort of knew how to defend myself if I really felt like I was in extreme danger. If I felt like, you know, I couldn't talk my way out of it or something. And that thankfully that's never happened. I've been able to run, which as we find out in this movie, that's a cowardly thing to do, I bet. But what's the line in him? He's like, the best block is not be there, you know?
yeah, yeah. The best defense is no be there, or something like that.
Well, he said the best
Uh,
block is no be
yeah, the best.
there. And I thought that was he was like, because Daniel's son was so confused by that. By that saying, but like that totally makes sense. The best block is to not be there, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what are
Well,
you
I
saying?
don't have I don't have the karate background that you do, and so for me, it's more or less, uh, taking it for what it is, and it's interesting you hear saying that would have been a foul, if you will, the winning kick against Johnny.
Yeah, if I had kicked somebody in Kumite in the face, they would have just automatically disqualified me.
Yeah, and the guy who, well, I mean, obviously it was a signature move and everything like that. But if I remember correctly, the one who played the referee, Pat Johnson, he was the choreographer, the karate instructor, basically on set. So,
I'm sure he told them
um,
that. I'm sure he
yeah,
told them that, and they were just like, "It's gonna look great.
yeah,
Just kick him in the face."
yeah, the move was so cinematic that they had to. And he tries it in a real life scenario in part two. Doesn't go so well there, but
Well, yeah, I mean, I, I, I think even in part three, he tries the crane kick again. It's just like, and it doesn't work, doesn't fly. Like the first time, he was lucky that that worked because the guy was just not expecting it. But I don't know. I guess more people kind of are aware, like when you put your feet up there, that the next thing you're gonna do is try to kick off the other one. You know.
yeah,
But
yeah. So
yeah, yeah,
the opening scene of of this one, take
the very
the
famous opening
recap.
scene.
Yeah, yeah. It's supposedly Martin Cove really bloodied his hand on that take. That's really, he really cut himself on one of the takes. Maybe not from the glass there, but he did really, that was real blood in one of the shots.
Nice.
Because he really
A
did do
method
that. But
actor.
yeah, I know, right? But that whole sequence, I think it does so well because it sort of gives a little wrap around to the Cobra Kai characters. It shows Kreese and how he's just going to run off, and that actually sets up part three nicely for that part of it. But with Johnny, I really like that he's like, I did the best I could. I came in second, or yeah, I came in. He's like, you're a loser and stuff like that. But to me, that was kind of, it showed his character as being not. I know we argue about who's the good guy, who's the bad guy in a previous podcast, but this one here, it showed his character really turn a corner. Now they reconned it a little bit with the fallout for Cobra Kai, but uh,
Hmm.
I mean, it seemed like he turned a corner and became somewhat of a decent guy and became sort of the victim, if you will. In his one little scene, I mean, it was very, very short.
I mean, I agree, but also I always thought that was such a weird thing because like even as a kid, I always thought that was weird that Johnny just sort of turned all of a sudden, you know? Like, okay, so when we reviewed Karate Kid, I believe that John Ward and I brought up on this last one that when he does that, you sort of see Johnny at the end of the tournament kind of turn into this nicer guy, right? Like nicer version of himself. Because at one point, uh he's like sweep the leg, right? And then
Yeah,
he gives him like a look like, what?
I
Right?
think that's when he's after to realize that he was. I think that's when Johnny realized that he was what was right, what was wrong. So
Right.
he
And
knew.
that was it. That was it. That was the connection. That was where he turned. So then at the end, he could have that big, like, hey man, but then I still to this day think Johnny wouldn't have been like that. Johnny had never shown in any of Karate Kid that he was a nice guy, that he had even a little bit of a heart, right? So that's where people go and say, oh, Johnny was the one who got bullied. Johnny's this nice guy, but like, show me another scene where in Karate Kid before the tournament where he's a nice guy to Danny, like, show me
Well,
that.
maybe not to Danny, but he tried it with Allie. He tried to be nice, but as soon as it didn't go well, he turned. So I mean,
I don't know. I
he was a
don't, well,
very,
I mean, he was, at the dance, he was very sweet to her in part one, and everything to Allie, but like, that's because he wants to become her boyfriend again. Like
yeah.
he's just manipulating her. He was back then a really terrible person. However, the way Cobra Kai makes it, and spoilers for Cobra Kai if you haven't seen it, which it's on like what, fifth season, sixth season, going on sixth season. So if you haven't seen it by now, that's your fault. Um, but anyway, Cobra Kai, they kind of take him and turn him into this sort of, misunderstood guy, which I think is what people have been trying to say. Like he's misunderstood, and they try to show him he's got a terrible stepdad, he's got a terrible life. His life, life in high school wasn't the one that Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to switch over.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. He's just switching over his microphone or whatnot, his earphones. Um, I
There.
will. All right. So what I'm saying is like they show him sort of have this terrible life, right? He
Hmm.
has this stepfather who hates him and this other shit that's going on that in high school really affected his personality and sort of, and then he had this coach, this terrible sensei who was guiding him like somebody he trusted, who kind of taught him the worst way, which is strike first, strike hard, no mercy. Right? Which is strike first. You no, it's the exact opposite of what Miyagi's class teaches.
Yeah.
And that's the first. Now, people say, oh, well, Danny goes into the bathroom and does the whole thing and instigates that. I mean, he's protecting himself before something happens. Because if he's at that dance and Johnny catches him, when he leaves that dance, he's gonna get beat up anyway, you know? So he's doing what Johnny does. So if people say he was, well, use that as an example, you know,
Yeah.
then people always forget the scene where Johnny and the gang throw him off the hill. You know what I mean? Nobody ever talks
Well,
about how much of a bully he really was.
I think Johnny's a flawed character, but I wouldn't necessarily say that he's all bad. He's very misguided. He has a lot of bad traits, but I think he's also manipulated, obviously, by Kreese. But to make in a lot of movies, you have a defined good guy and a defined bad guy, and to simply say Daniel was a good guy, a straight good guy, and Johnny was a straight bad guy, I think there's a blurred lines, and I think what they hint at in Karate Kid. I don't know if they did it intentionally, but they really struck gold on it in Cobra Kai to really go into that and go into the mindset and the perspective because that's just the way that they portray those characters. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to say that Johnny was a good guy because he wasn't, but I think that he was a flawed character who was very misguided and manipulated by a lot of things. And I think that he had maybe it was a little over the top with him turning at the end, or I'll say turning, but just acknowledging it. But I like that. I like that they showed that, and I like the way that they handle it at the beginning of part two because it truly shows that he had turned, or at least realized he turned. Now his life went to crap, as Cobra Kai talks about at the beginning, because he had so many trouble over the
Because he
years.
lost the tournament and he got kicked out of Cobra Kai. Like his life was
Yeah,
just not what he wanted.
yeah. But I thought it was nice closure for his story from so part two could go on without him, and all of Cobra Kai for that matter. But at that point, it's more about okay, so they set up they have a little point with Kreese, and then it's sort of what's going to be the next steps with Miyagi and Daniel, moving forward into part two.
So before we get into all that, because we will, because
Hmm.
obviously all that goes into that after, the Miyagi and Kreese scene where he protects Johnny, and because at one point, Kreese gets really upset and starts choking um Johnny, and they say you're killing him, you're gonna kill him
Yeah, and
basically.
Johnny's tapping out too.
Yeah,
He literally he's tapping like what's supposed to be to give the it's a surrender. So
yeah.
it's supposed to be over at that point. But
Yeah,
Kreese
but
doesn't recognize
Kreese no,
rules.
or Kreese doesn't care because Kreese is so pissed off that his his group lost to, and man, they use some derogatory remarks in that I'm gonna
Oh
say
yeah.
this out loud, but just know I am not condoning this word
I
or
don't know. I
this
don't know. I don't know. Maybe we'll just go beep because we know what it was. I know where you're going. I think I know which
Okay,
word you're
well,
going to use.
if you
It,
haven't
it's it.
seen it, I mean, if you
Yeah.
have seen it, you probably know exactly which word is the S word that I will not say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
about Miyagi, and it was just yeah.
it's an Asian derogatory remark, and it was nasty, and it just shows Kreese is, even after all this, after he lost and everything, he doesn't have any, honor, and really honor is what this movie is all
Hmm.
about, like part two, and so he's about to kill him, basically. It looks like he's about to attack him, and then he just honks. He says the whole lines of mercy is for the weak, man who
An enemy deserves no mercy.
mercy. And then he goes, ah, honk, and then kind of drops them and lets them go. And my favorite line in that was where I think I even posted on Facebook, where where Daniel is like, you could have killed him. Well, why didn't you? Like, first of all, I'm thinking, why didn't you? Because it's against the law to kill someone. Like, do you want your sensei to go to jail? Like that was he can't claim self-defense on that one, you know.
Yeah,
But anyway, he was like, why didn't you? And he goes, because a man with no forgiveness in his heart has a worse suffering than death,
yeah,
and stuff. And I thought that was really great because, yeah, he it sort of foreshadows what we're gonna see with Santo and Chosen later. But we haven't even met these guys yet. We don't even know we don't know this stuff is about to happen. If you haven't seen this movie, you don't know about Chosen, you don't know about Santo. Unless you watch Cobra Kai before you watch this, which some kids might have. I don't know. The Cobra Kai could be the show that gets them into Karate Kid, for all I know.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So they go off and um, so sort of describe what happens next.
Okay, so after the tournament's over, it forwards about it says 6 months later, and it shows Miyagi actually doing the fly routine with the chopsticks from part
Mm.
one, but he catches it, so it's already showing continued growth of his character. So and that he's finding he has that inner peace and that he's or perceived
He,
inner peace at that moment, anyways, because it's his life's about to be turned upside down.
yeah,
But
he,
but yeah, he's nice and peaceful. And then Daniel pulls up in the car and it's all beat up. And which I think it was real quick the way that he talked about that Allie wrecked it and that she's run off with a football
yeah, they
player or
just
something
had
like
to
that.
explain why he's single
Yeah,
again,
yeah, they
which
wrote her character off because she was, I mean, she wouldn't have fit with them going to Okinawa one, and it made him available for potential love in this one too, and it just it was a way for them to get Elizabeth Shue because she wasn't in it because she was doing some schooling or something like that. She was finishing her degree or something in Harvard or one of the big schools.
I
Yeah,
wonder
she
if
was
that's
finishing.
why, like, I mean, I guess if he had already decided he was gonna go to Okinawa, then he's not gonna bring her, or whatever. There's just no, unless they wanted to set up that Allie was gonna be eventually be his future wife. But really, it got it got to be like, I always kind of describe it like Zach Morris. Zach Morris every episode had a new girlfriend, you know.
Yeah, because that's what he did with the three here, and then he has his
Well,
wife
two,
in Cobra
two,
Kai.
and then and third one he didn't actually end up dating her or anything. And I told John about this and he was shocked to hear this, but I found out some information about that. Apparently, after this movie, I don't know when exactly, what year, but Ralph Macchio got married to his wife, and it was right before, I guess, right before part three, and she did not want him dating anybody,
Hmm.
or not dating anybody. Like, she obviously didn't want him dating. She didn't want him dating anybody in a TV show, like or a movie or whatever. Like, she didn't want a romantic interest. So in part three, he said he would come back, but only if he didn't have a romantic interest at all. So that's why Robin Lively's character is more of a friend. They
Hmm.
never end up kissing, they never end up holding hands or touching much, or whatever. It was very much like they were just friends, and she was going to be there for that summer or whatever it was, and then she had to leave,
Hmm.
and stuff, and that was already all set up. So it's interesting because in Cobra Kai
Yeah.
they do bring her back, but and she's like good friends with his wife, in that. And I thought that was very cute that,
Yeah.
they stayed in touch, they became friends. And then, because years later, I believe his wife did say, okay, you can have a wife, but if you watch Cobra Kai, I don't think they kiss at all, you know? I don't think,
I don't remember anything memorable. Usually they're at odds with their opinions.
yeah, usually they're fighting or something, which I mean, people might say that's very much what a marriage is like, but it doesn't feel romantic,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything. And
They had a couple moments, I think, where they were kind of lovey-dovey, but in general, it's really not.
yeah,
But with part two, everything's set up to where it's like, okay, they've written Ali out, so he's completely free mind to do whatever he's going to do, and but at the beginning of part two, he's going to have to move with his mom out of the area for the summer or something like that,
yeah,
and
for 2 months, I think it was.
yeah, but Miyagi works it around to where he's going to be able to stay in the outhouse and or not outhouse, but the not the out.
Jesus.
Geez, that go a whole different direction.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where am I going to be staying, Mr. Miyagi? In
yeah,
the outhouse.
yeah, yeah.
I don't even
He
want
was
you near my house.
yeah. There you go. He's building the guest house.
Yes.
Yeah, the guest house is being built.
Man, I love that scene where he's like, "Oh, I know how to take your mind off of this stuff. Work, you
Yeah,
know?"
he's like, well, you can give me. Why you always give me to work whenever I have problems?
Yeah.
That's kind of funny, but and I've still never been able to master that trick that he does with that hammer and the nail. It's just like that, boom. But I
You
mean,
need
that's
to
kind of
focus,
cool.
man. You need to go.
Uh, I don't have that focus. I would be the one that would break my hand on the first sheet of ice, and if I was trying to
Oh
break through
yeah,
multiple levels.
yeah. We'll
Uh,
get to that. We'll get to that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
So they're they're building a guest house thing, and the mail guy comes, gives the letter, and that sort of opens the door, saying that Miyagi's finding out that his dad's in failing health, and who the letters. I think they mentioned who the letters from, but we don't know really her
we don't
Yuki's
know who Yuki is really. Like,
at that moment until we get there.
yeah, because like the first movie sort of shows off his other life. Like it does mention that his dad was a fisherman and that his
Mhm.
dad was, taught him karate, did all these things. Because at that one point, even they show in the flashback where it's like, wow, you had some dad,
Yeah.
right? And so yeah, he ended up, what is it? Going he ends up finding out about Yuki, but he doesn't, which by the way, that mailman was freaking hilarious. I love that guy because he was like, "Oh, my wife would love to see this. Can she come over?" And like Mr. Miyagi is like, "Go away." Kind of thing. And he's like, "Oh,
Perhaps some other time.
yeah, perhaps some other time." And he walks away, and I'm like, "That was great." See, just
It's a nice little cameo for a little
yeah,
small. Yeah.
small walk-on role that like like that would be like today that would be like an Indiegogo kind of role where somebody would get
Yeah, exactly.
get asked to come in, and it's a memorable scene to me. Like I remembered it,
Hmm.
after it happened. It's not like that guy went away. It's just because it was so well written where
Hmm.
and I think the original writer of Karate Kid wrote this one, Robert
Hmm.
Mark Kamen, and he did such a great job coming back.
Yeah, and to your point with the mailman, he was not really. I mean, he didn't do anything like crazy over the top. It was the flow of the scene. It just fit
Was
perfectly,
just
and
the
it,
script. It was just the
and then
writing in
he
it.
and that guy on the 1 day role just sort of nailed it. He was there
Yeah.
for 1 day probably, and that was it. I mean, I don't see why
Yeah.
he would have been there for anything else,
I
but
I hope he puts that on his reel.
there you go. There you
Shows
go.
off he
So
was
yeah,
there.
so Daniel is sort of the next day when he's supposed to be there at 6:30. Miyagi's like waiting at the taxi. He's like, I guess I gotta go. I'm like, the first time I saw it, I was like, damn, he's leaving him out, hung out to dry. Daniel's not even there. But he shows up at the airport, and
Well, he showed
obviously,
up to airport to say like he was supposed to go say goodbye, which I was wondering like had he even finished with the guest house? So like was he not planning to I guess they were not planning he was gonna plan to go to Fresno, right? Then like, oh well, I guess I gotta go to Fresno because you're going off to
yeah, because
Okinawa.
Miyagi wasn't going to be there. He was going to be
Yeah.
gone. So yeah,
Though it
so
would have been an interesting movie had he said, "Oh, you can stay at my house, you know, right? And everything while I'm away and everything the Karate Kid's just partying and fighting all the girls over."
So Karate Kid 2 became Daniel's house party.
Yeah, pretty much house party. House party
Well,
6, you know.
well, the interesting thing when you say that when when I was watching it yesterday for God knows how many times I've seen this movie now, um, it it made me really think, and I've seen this before, but it's not, Daniel's really the second character in this movie. It's
Right.
really Miyagi's story, and that's really different than part one, obviously, because
Hmm.
it's Miyagi has to go there to deal with his dad's failing health, and then the whole introduction of Sato and all that stuff, and then secondary becomes Daniel with Chosen,
Hmm.
but I mean the ultimate payoff is with Daniel, obviously, because it is the Karate Kid, if you will, but it seemed like the bulk meat of the story is driven by Miyagi's journey, if you will, in this
Yeah.
one.
I
And
mean,
that's and
this
that
was
and
a
I
very
thought that was cool.
Miyagi-centered story. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was cool. But they so uh
I
Daniel
think,
talks.
hold on
Go
real
ahead.
quick though. I just want to say, because then before I forget, that I think the reason being that they decided to do that was Miyagi became the favorite. Not saying that Ralph Macchio and Daniel wasn't a great character. I think it's always, it's like Empire Strikes Back. People don't remember Luke as much as they remember Yoda. You know, Yoda is just this character that shows up. All of a sudden, people are like, I want him everywhere. I want. What is up with like short people who kick ass? I don't know. Bruce Lee, Miyagi and Yoda, they're all
There you go.
there you go. Anyway, I think that's it. I think that like he
Well,
became more the favorite, so they,
yeah.
wanted him to
And,
come.
and they really needed to tell a story that, I mean, because Daniel's character wasn't at a point of being a center story growth. They had more story to go with Miyagi. But I like the scene where the persuade Daniel persuades him that he can go with them and stuff, and he says he spent his money on his tuition money for it, which I thought was kind of cool. And this is something good with writing they do. Later on in the story, when they win some of the money back, win some of the money, Miyagi gives it to him and says it's to reimburse the college education and stuff like that. So little things like that, it just fits nicely into the story. So so anyways, they're heading to Okinawa, which looked awfully lot like Hawaii, but anyways, I
Right.
actually well, I filmed in Hawaii, but
Oh, the movie was
anyways,
filmed in Hawaii, not
I
actually.
believe it was filmed in Hawaii. Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah,
wish they had
yeah.
been able
So
to shoot actually in Okinawa.
well, I think Okinawa in the late '80s probably had some um, world issues, I think. Probably was a good way to say it. But when they get there to Okinawa, though, it's like they're introduced to they're just looking to get a ride to the village and stuff like that, and that's when they run into Chosen,
Hmm.
and I was like, okay, well, they're gonna get a ride in it, but you can just see from his look that it's just very menacing, and the way Chosen's interacting with his friend, it was just sort of like some things have changed and some things haven't, and they're just laughing. It's
Hmm.
just like, yeah, they're up to no good. And then they basically go into this warehouse. I was like, this is very ominous. It's like, what's going on here? And then Sato emerges, and
Oh God, so yeah, so they got the also, by the way, we forgot. I think we like remember when we saw Sato breaking the wood and like
oh yeah,
at the when they
y-
first show up.
Yeah,
And
on the billboards.
and yeah, and he says, can you break wood like that? And he goes, I don't know, never been attacked by a tree.
Don't know,
And
never been attacked by a tree.
I
Yes.
love it. I love that line. But like, did you realize like that foreshadowed his later he
Hmm.
breaks the wood, to
Yep.
save Sato's life. So like good
And Sato,
writing.
yeah, and Sato didn't even could never break the wood that him and Miyagi found years before when they had that scene where they were. He's like, Miyagi's like, "Is this the same wood that we found at the beach years before?" And he's like, "Same." I'm like,
Yeah,
oh gosh. But to your point, it, Sato breaks it at the beginning, and he's the powerful, appearing to be the powerful guy. But Miyagi's the one that saves him by breaking wood at the end. The
right.
wood.
And like that was yeah, he breaks the wood where it looks like he's well, we'll get to that. I don't want to, I don't want to get ahead
Yeah.
of ourselves, but
But the
compare this.
foreshadowing elements is
But that
that's
makes a
strong
great
writing.
yeah, where it makes a great script is where, I was even talking to someone about this yesterday. I said, that line where a if you introduce a gun in Act One, it better go off by Act Three, right? You
Mhm.
know, that's this was you introduce somebody breaking wood in the first act, it better go off by Act Three.
Yep.
And that's literally what happens by Act Three. We get the breaking of the wood and everything in it.
Yeah,
Worked out perfect.
there's strong storytelling elements all throughout it because there's a scene where I know we're going this is sort of in the middle of the movie, but where he's Daniel's uh walking with the girl down the street to go to the rest they're just sightseeing or whatever, and then they're like, and he's like, oh, we might see Mr. Miyagi around the corner here because he had to go pick up a piece for the refrigerator that he was repairing a few scenes earlier, which makes sense. And that works out well because when Daniel goes into the gambling bar with the ice and everything like that, she knows right where Kumiko knows right where to go
Right.
um,
Yeah.
to find
Um,
Miyagi. So it's like it was strong storytelling in the midst of a walking scene. So there was p- positive moving forward, but yet it transitioned to something
and
that
it
paid off
didn't
in a future scene.
it didn't feel like it was exposition, you know?
Exactly.
Like you see some of if it was written by a hack writer, like a really terrible writer, they'd be like, "Oh, did you know that Mr. Miyagi is over there sitting over Oh, is he right there? Okay." You know what I mean? Like, where it's very plain to see. This was just like
Hmm.
normal dialogue
Yep.
people say like of like, hey, I we might run into Mr. Miyagi. Oh, well, why?
Yeah.
Where's he supposed to be? Oh, he's supposed to be there. Oh, hey, that's like or block up the street. Oh my God, we might run into him. And then later she actually runs to get him. So yeah,
Now
very, very strong.
everybody appeared in that scene really quickly, which was a little convenient, but that's that
Oh,
where
that whole
Sato
yeah, we'll,
appeared.
we'll get to that
Yes,
in a second. Yeah.
but anyways, rewinding back to when Sato emerges from in the warehouse, he basically tells him that you see your father, then you see me, and it's like okay, and then Miyagi's like not even bothered by it. He's just like,
Hmm.
I'm just going to go find my way to the village, and then they go to so they get a taxi and they go to the village, but the village is it's kind of sad because that you see the village, but they stop it at there's like a military base there, and there's like fencing all up beside the village, and the village is basically this like relic in like just buried in the corner by itself, and it
Yeah,
was
well,
kind
there's
of
this
and the
castle
airman, yeah,
that's like on its own like little island, it looks like, and
yeah,
which Sato owns like
yeah.
everything,
Yeah,
apparently.
and Sado owning everything is so um, reflective of his heart was broken because his in his eyes his friend betrayed him by not allowing by getting in the way of the arranged marriage and stuff like that and arranged whatever, and so he just became a bad um and he even says it in his cleanup at the end where he says hate was wrong, I was wrong, and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
he comes clean of it, but the whole village is basically being kept under his like under his stranglehold because of him perceived his pride, his honor was hurt, and that just shows the level of importance that honor has to some
Right.
to should be to everybody, but especially to some cultures.
And you know what? It goes back to what we were talking about with Johnny and everything, of them sort of turning a 180 and everything. But in this, they really show Sato being a pretty good guy. Like he's a nice, other than um this hang up in the past with Miyagi, and everything, and wanting to fight him and everything, and just not being able to get over it, which I mean, I get it if you're upset that like this dude broke up your relationship basically, with somebody you were excited to be married to, just because, and it goes to that whole thing of like a lot of times there's that, maybe there might be like that little triangle where two guys like the same girl, and I've had it happen where I've liked the same girl as somebody else, and now we're no longer friends
Hmm.
because we're both competing for the same person, and at the end of the day it turns out like we were both wrong, for that kind
Hmm.
of thing. Like friendship should always sort of come first. And so but the whole time, Miyagi's still friends. Like he still calls him a friend, and he says, you gotta stop this stuff. So, but he sort of shows the changes a little bit at times where he's like he's the bad guy because he's telling, Miyagi he wants to fight him, but then he's doing nice things, and he's being not, he's being respectful. He's doing all these things. And Miyagi's just kind of stuck there dealing with the stuff while he's just trying to see his father before his father passes.
Hmm. And that's a really hard scene to watch when the dad passes, because Sato and Miyagi were out in the street basically getting ready to. Sato was confronting him, basically saying, "We're going to fight now, and we're going to do this now." And then Yukie comes in and says, "Hey, you got to come quick." And so they go in there, and the dad on his dying bed puts their two hands together, and it's like, and he's just holding their two hands together as he dies, and you just see as soon as he passed away how Sato so violently just pulls his hand away from
He just
Miyagi's, and
can't,
it's
he
like,
can't, even with this, he can't, he can't be friends with
you
somebody
know,
who he feels betrayed him.
yeah, but Yukie never really loved him, so it doesn't seem that way anyway. So it's like it was never
Mm. Well, they never
it
got
was just it was,
married. They
yeah, because it
never
was just an
ended.
arranged thing that
Yeah,
it was an arranged.
they should have gotten married if, because even Miyagi thought that they ended up getting married, right? That's
Yeah,
why he
yeah,
left was,
mhm.
that's,
And she said uh no, I never married. Basically, she's like, my love was you, and it wasn't going to happen, so I never married. And that lights up Miyagi. I mean, but it also hurts him. 'Cause he's just like, wow, I was he this that was my true love, and
I was kind of disappointed that Miyagi and Daniel didn't bring Yuki and Miko down to, back to America when they both talked about it to the women, like
Mhm.
this wasn't like, I mean, not like set up or anything. Though
I don't, did
there's,
they never talked about it in part three? Did they neither
I
one of
think
them
they do.
mentioned
I
it?
think they kind of mention what Kamiko is doing, but they don't mention Yuki.
Okay.
But they do mention, I think she got some job. I think she did go to America or something, but like New York, or something, and
Yeah.
couldn't make it to California to be with him, or whatever. I think
Well, yeah.
I
Well,
have to rewatch it, so I'll let you
yeah,
know.
I can't remember if they mentioned her in part three or not, but that was one of the great things with Cobra Kai that I was so great to see when they brought Kumiko in for that one or two scenes with Daniel, and it was just like it felt like closure to part two that I never had received.
Yeah.
And that's that she moved forward, and she said she never married either. But she got her dream of teaching of dancing and teaching dance, and
Right, which
that
I
was
think
her
is
dream.
what
So
happened. I think is like she got a gig
Hmm.
doing dance classes or dance stuff in New York, but not in,
Yeah.
California.
So,
So it really pissed off Daniel again because it's all about Daniel. I mean, I hate to say it, but Daniel
oh,
is
and Cobra
very
Kai. Yeah.
so even like yeah, even with Cobra Kai, but like even with this whole franchise, Daniel is such a self-absorbed little brat, Like it's always, oh me, oh me. I mean, okay, look, Allie meeting a quarterback that she liked better than him. Okay, I get that, but most of the other stuff that happens, or whatever, is because he's just all thinking about himself. Um, they do bring that sort of into Cobra Kai, but he kind of learns from a lot of that and
Mhm.
grows. And that's the wonderful thing about TV shows that expands, seasons. So you get to really, the character gets to change and grow throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
So but looking at in Cobra Kai, the way they closed Kumiko's story out was really good because that's something that I always left wanting. They introduced the other girl, the girl that almost died on the tower, ringing the bell. They showed her. That was a cute little cameo,
no, she was in
showing that.
Cobra Kai.
Yeah, she was with Kumiko at the scene where they had lunch or something like that. One
Was
of the
it the
scenes,
same girl, I wonder?
I believe it
Same
was.
actress?
Yeah, same
That's
girl that
funny.
played. Yeah, that so I mean that was like sort of I'll say sugar on top sort of type of thing to the story, but that they closed Kumiko's story and um in Cobra Kai how Chosen is rehabilitated, if you will,
Well,
because in
yeah.
this movie he's not good at all,
Yeah, and he
and
doesn't have that redeeming ending like what's his name does, like Johnny does.
yeah,
Like
exactly. I mean,
Johnny has that sort of like, you did it, you're not that bad, LaRusso kind of thing at the end, where he's like, kind of congratulating him and being this nicer guy. He's got a little bit of a redemption at the end of that and in the beginning of this, where he's just like, dude, I got second place, I'm not a loser or anything, and second place is a loser, you know,
yep.
and shit like that. And so he has that kind of redeeming quality chosen throughout the whole thing, even to the point where he could have helped Daniel out. He could have. And he even
Hmm.
saw that Sato and Miyagi were cool, like
Right.
something was there. And then he said, no, I'll not help. I will not help coward. And I'm like, dude, they've forgiven. You should,
Yeah.
like, what is wrong with you?
Well, Daniel got his Kumiko wasn't necessarily his girl, but he sort of hinted at like how much she liked him. So it was probably he probably had like an underlying thing for.
He
I
had a
think they
crush
mentioned
on
it.
her, but I don't
I
think
think
she
they
liked
mentioned
him.
something in Cobra Kai that did they ever talk or something like that. But his character though it was just so it was bad, and I think that was just an extension of Sato for at the moment. And but there was that good side of Sato was never found in Chosen until Cobra Kai,
Right.
when they rehabilitated his character.
You make a good point. This continues that trend of bad teacher teaches students bad stuff. Even Karate Kid Part 3 had Terry Silver teaching him how to just kill somebody, right? And everything.
Yep.
Teaching him nasty stuff because that's Cobra Kai for you anyway. But like this other version is like Sato, who is sort of like the John Kreese of Okinawa.
Hmm.
He's sort of this bitter, nasty guy. Cobra Kai, thankfully, we get to sort of understand Kreese a little bit more, why he is, and even he gets a little bit of a redemption, toward, later seasons or whatever, where he starts realizing even Terry is worse than he is, and
Yeah,
everything.
because I think ultimately out of everything, out of this entire series through Cobra Kai, now Silver's the only really true villain now. I mean,
I
Kreese is
wonder,
still bad, but
I wonder
obviously,
if they'll
but
do a 180 on him in the next season.
well,
That'll
who
be
else are they going to bring
interesting.
in? That's going to bring some. that'd be kind of weak though, I would think, if they try to introduce some new character as the ultimate baddie, and then everybody right off in the sunset is happy as good
Yeah.
characters, or
So I
that'd be
guess you
kind
need
of
that one over because and that's so weird because in part three it was still Kreese was still the bad guy.
Mhm.
Terry was doing terrible shit and everything, but it was because those guys were like best buddies, in Nam. And now all of a sudden, he has or wasn't Nam, was it? It was
it was either Nam or Korea. I can't remember which
yeah,
one.
I mean, it was Korean War, I believe, because I think both of them, I think both, Miyagi also fought for the Korean War, and so or something, I don't know, but whatever. But those two
Mhm.
fought side by side, Terry and and Kreese, and yeah, so those guys sort of get a little bit of whatever, and Terry becomes the ultimate villain. But everybody sort of gets some kind of redemption at some point or
Yeah.
another, which
Yeah,
I like.
and hearing where their perspectives are from, you get to see that more in Cobra Kai. But
Oh, Cobra
the
Kai, Mike
perspective,
Mike Barnes is a
yeah,
little bit, he gets a little bit of
yeah,
redemption. So
but
everybody it kind of does that. It has a trend of that.
I think perspective is a big thing in this entire series, because you and I, we've had the debates before about the perspective of, is Daniel a good guy or a bad guy, and is Johnny good or bad. Perspective in this one here, there's the scene where Daniel's talking about what he's learned from reading in the book, and he's like, his perspective is from an American point of view. He says, yeah, 15,000 Americans killed here. And then Miyagi's like, yeah, 150,000 Okinawans and Japanese. And it's just like, it just goes to show, it's like there's, we're thinking of something from a US standpoint, but Miyagi's obviously a very well thought of and loved character from what at that point was the other side of the war. And it's just the perspective that they showed it from. And I think that's something that's really done well in this series.
Hmm.
And that's why I really hope in, because obviously there's not really much else they can bring back from these movies unless they bring back bring Jackie Chan or Smith into it, or Hilary Swank, obviously, into
That
Cobra
was that
Kai.
was
There's
what
not
I
a,
was hoping, but like, I mean, we won't know until the next season, and
yeah, so it's like we don't really know where that's going, but I hope they don't redeem Terry Silver's character. I really hope they don't, because not that I don't like him. I mean, that's not that, I think we need
I
to
think
have
I
a
think I
true
like
villain that
him
has.
too. Like I like him, which kind of probably pisses me off a little bit that,
I like him as a bad guy.
right.
I,
But
I
he's got a personality and he
mhm,
makes me laugh at times. Like he's an asshole,
yeah,
He's like, and he's a rich asshole who he's like Bruce Wayne if Bruce Wayne wanted to be an asshole,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
do karate stuff or
yeah.
whatever.
But now taking this with Karate Kid 2, with Chosen, him being so bad, and they rehabbed his character in Cobra Kai, which I'm still kind of a little up in the air on, saying, well, is it good or bad? But I like what they've done with his character in the sense of how he interacts with Daniel, in American ways and stuff like that in Cobra Kai, because it's kind of fun, if you will,
Right.
in there. But it's like, still part of me wishes we could get some of that, and they've had glimpses of it, some of that menacing Chosen character back,
Hmm.
because it's like something that they made it. I was reading somewhere that Chosen's the only character that actually got a strike in on Miyagi in any of them, that
Yeah.
actually physically got a strike in. And granted, Miyagi's back was turned at the moment, but still, nevertheless, Chosen was a really good villain.
I
And I
don't know
mean,
though. I don't know if that counts because I think there is a scene in part three where they do kick Miyagi, but there's like two people attacking at once, and one of them's able to get like a hit on Miyagi, but Miyagi still can fight, or whatever.
hmm.
I don't know. I
Well,
don't I'd
I'm
have to
going watch.
rewatch
I'm
that.
watch three. I'm be watching three. I can't remember three as well, obviously, as one and two, but
Yeah.
uh, just the way that they handled Chosen's character, that that as he's part of the rich he's not a family member, but he's his top student, Sato's top student. But I mean that he's even conning the local people by those weights, having wrong weight things, broke the, like, for the when the guy was selling carrots,
Hmm.
and Daniel snapped the one weight because it was fake. I was like, he's conning people there. I was like, he's just a bad guy.
He's a terrible human at that
And
time,
and
and
and I really like that they point out that his problem, he's like, my problem, he just wanted somebody to be angry with at the beginning, it seemed, but
mhm.
he he felt in his own perspective that he had a right to be angry with Daniel and vice versa, because he comes in from over out of the country. He's related to, or he's with Miyagi, so that's bad. He's come
Yeah,
into
yeah.
his
First, yeah.
territory,
First of all,
and he's got his girl here. He's going after a girl that one of that he may or may not like. And it's like I can understand his anger, but he's very misguided.
I'm glad it wasn't an ex-girlfriend, like, or whatever. Like, just
Yeah,
it would be too much like doing it again. But yeah, Kimiko doesn't even seem like she's interested in him
yeah.
whatsoever, and I don't blame her. Uh, we've kind of gone all over the place, but I do want to talk. There's a couple of really great scenes in the movie that are kind of beneficial for him as a character for Daniel. One of them's being the I forgot what it was, but it was some kind of thing that just flew
Oh,
down.
that
Like,
it was like at the Fisher thing, the fisherman
yeah,
hook things or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, apparently it was a training thing where they would shoot it off, and then you would just learn how to just maneuver, And he kind of teaches him to do that with the
Drum technique.
drum
Yeah.
technique. Yeah. It's like, basically, which we never got that, like, we never got like a training montage like we did in part one where he's training with that, I don't think. Like, I don't think we see him actually do that. However, did you
He
ever?
does say ask to the drum, or he says ask drum,
Yeah,
because Miyagi has that training sequence. It's not a sequence, but he has a training moment where he's talking to him about how Miyagi and his dad was there at that place,
yeah,
and Miyagi did the same thing that Daniel did. And there was some humor in it, but it's also training. It's also evolution of characters. So it's cool.
exactly. Did you know that the Karate Kid Nintendo game was basically Karate Kid Part 2? Did you ever play
I
the
pu- uh, I
Nintendo
did,
game?
but gosh, that was 35 years ago. I
Well,
don't even remember it.
they had stuff like they had the ice block. You had to break the ice. You also had to do you had to, and I could never, ever. You'd have to time it right with the B and A and the B and A and B and A, where you could like swing, away from the thing, and I always got knocked down, into the water or whatever and stuff like that. I always thought that was fucking cool. I'm glad it didn't ever like go right through my stomach or something like that. That'd be a little morbid, but for a Nintendo game, but.
I'm gonna probably have to look up on YouTube, because I know YouTube, I see a lot of clips of old video games, people playing old video games, so it's like they probably
But
would
it
have something
is,
like that on.
yeah, all of it's Karate Kid Part 2. It's got all the Okinawan stuff, and I think you also catch flies with chopsticks, and but these are like because like the normal levels are you just kicking people while like
Yeah,
walking around, and just like people come at you and you just kick them, and then whatever, and then you go to the next thing. And once you get to the next thing, then you have that like next thing to beat or whatever to get more points, which is like the chopsticks or the breaking the ice and stuff like that. Man, makes me want to bust out my Nintendo and play some of that.
I got my Nintendo right over here.
I
It's put away in a bin,
I
but yeah,
don't know if I can hook it up to my flat ass TV.
yeah, I probably need one of those or probably a converter or something.
I might. I don't know
But
how to. Might have to talk to some people about that because I would love to bust it. I think I have my Nintendo somewhere. It might
now
be in the
I
studio.
wonder. Well, Nintendo probably doesn't have I don't remember them having the best sound, obviously, but
Mm.
the sound that was in Karate Kid 2, I really liked the music that they used. The not
They did have
the
the music, I remember, but it was not the music. Like it was like was it 8-bit version of that.
oh, okay, yeah. So
Yeah, so it sounds terrible,
yeah, but I know in the movie I really liked it, and I think that really put it in a very removed place from Karate Kid 1. So I think
Well, it
that's
did have the
the
same sort of like there was a lot of there was a lot of callbacks to the first one with the music. So there's a lot of some of the stuff if you listen, it sounds either very similar or it's the exact same music from the first movie. Because it's like the
Mhm.
theme of
Yeah.
Karate Kid is Bill Conti's score just sounds fucking phenomenal. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's like they play the song that's playing that Chosen plays in the car when they've taken picking them up at the airport is the same song that's played in one of the scenes in the first Karate Kid. It's just sort of background music and stuff like that. So I think that there is parallels, if you will, um,
Yeah.
for it. And obviously, Bill Conti being involved in it, uh, Karate Kid in a lot of ways is like sort of in the Rocky mentality of movies and stuff like that. And it's kind of funny that the title song, "The Glory of Love," was originally created for a Rocky movie, but got rejected from a Rocky movie from Rocky Four. So it got used here instead. And I think that "Glory of Love" fits perfectly with this because I mean it's definitely mid '80s. Karate Kid was dominating. I mean this one made more than part one at the box office. I mean it's to me it's just it just hit. Um, so
There was a song uh that I believe, I don't know if it's in the first Karate Kid or both. I believe that was like used in Picnic at Hanging Rock. I don't know if you've ever seen that
oh,
movie,
oh
but
yeah.
yeah, but if you like listen, it's very similar because I was like, ah, that
Yeah,
sounds
I saw
like
that. I saw
Karate
that.
Kid, I think.
I saw that in a film class or something a long time ago. Yeah.
Great
So
movie. It's a
yeah,
Criterion. We'll probably be doing it for Criterion Watch at some point.
it's a different type of watch, but yeah, it's
It's a little
yeah,
bit more depressing and a little bit
yeah,
more
yeah,
sad,
yeah.
but it's a great movie. It's really well done.
Mhm.
Um, it's nothing like
Um,
this, you know.
yeah, yeah. Well, in this one, they had the music, some more with the music. They had the '50s dance, which was kind of cool. Having a lot of that type of music, and then where they're sitting at the table, Kumiko and Daniel, they play Earth Angel. It's like a new edition version of Earth Angel, but that's played in the background. I'm like, I love that song. Just and
Earth Angel, that
I
was like what
yeah,
Back to the Future
that Back
used
to the Future,
that,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you
So it was
know,
like same years, but New Edition did a remake of it at the time, so obviously it was a little bit different. But um, uh, it just in the another thing I was going with the music is it fit the culture there, and
mhm.
and they tried to do a lot of the uh just uh like the ceremonies and stuff like that, the tea ceremonies,
Mhm.
uh, the when the father passed, so the lanterns out on the water and stuff like that. So it seemed authentic. I have no reason to believe that those weren't authentic ceremonies done in Okinawan culture. It
I
just
did
seemed to
look
fit
it up
really
a little
well.
bit, and yes, all of that does exist. It's an old custom, you know, old
Mhm.
tradition. I don't know if they would be done in a castle, like or whatever that thing, you
The
know,
bone dance.
the bone dance. Yeah. But if you do look it up online, like the bone dance is a real thing, you know, and everything. I always thought it was bone dance, like
Oh,
Bone, and no, it's Bon, bone
yeah,
dance, you know.
bone dance. Yeah,
And
and she talked about that throughout and then it was a nice transition point for when Sato's like, "What else do you ask?" and stuff like that, and then he's like, "Your student becomes my teacher,"
yeah.
and so it shows the evolution of that character,
And
but
he
it
says, you
also
know, the bone dance will be at the castle from now and forever, you know.
yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. Like
Mhm.
I just thought that was awesome. That was
Yeah.
nice.
Then they're at the dance and the the shot where well, at first Daniel gets to see that the girl that he saved and all, and there's a nice sentimental moment with her.
Mm-hmm.
But it all leads up to where Kumiko gets to do the dance in front of everybody. So she's living one of her dream scenarios at that moment. But the shot where Chozon comes down on the triangle thing behind her while she's dancing, and then it shows Daniel's view of it. To me, that's always one of the great shots. It's because
Mm-hmm.
it's done so well.
Because
And
you were not expecting it the first time, at least, and
yeah,
I was expecting it again, like I remembered it, even though I hadn't seen it in years, I still remember that scene. I remember him coming off and sliding down and grabbing her. It's almost like a pirate scene or something. Like you see in the pirate
Hmm.
movies where the guy
Yeah.
just slides down off the ship and stuff and lands down. But yeah, so he does that and it gets really like dark. Like he was gonna kill the girl and everything. And I was
Well, yeah,
like,
because it's like, and that's what Miyagi tells us, like, this isn't tournament, this is for real. I mean,
oh.
this is life or death. I mean, it's but they bookend the end of it with what the mercy, and this actually is a good thing with the comment you said at the beginning, why Daniel said to Miyagi's like, why didn't you kill him and stuff like that. At that moment, at the end of the movie, Daniel had a chance to do that to Chosen, but he said no. He's like, like live or die, and he's like, die, man. He's like, wrong. So
Wrong answer.
it parallels that, but it also shows growth in Daniel's character.
Shows
So I think
growth,
that,
and yes, you're right. So it shows the growth of Daniel saying, why didn't you kill him? Too, he had an opportunity. Like if he had killed him,
mhm,
I don't think anybody would have arrested him or anything. I don't think anything would have happened. I think
yeah,
because, but he chose not to do it because it would have it first of all, it would have made him just as bad as the bad guy if he had done that. Like he would have become the bad guy. Um, Two, it shows that line of the person with forgiveness and without forgiveness in their heart, which was chosen. Chosen did not have forgiveness in his heart. Throughout the whole time, he's had all this time to just say, "I'm sorry," or "I like, I forgive you for." Whatever, and all that stuff. And he has no forgiveness in his heart. So yeah, it definitely bookends well of like the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. They set that up, and once again, that's excellent writing. Like you don't get that anymore, I don't think. Look at any movie you've seen recently and tell me, does the beginning of the movie sort of mirror the end of the movie at all? And is there like okay, I'll give you an example. One that did do that, and I figured this out later. Because I was like, because the theme of the movie is supposed to happen the first 5 minutes, right? And
mhm.
we find that out with Honor. First 5 minutes of this movie is, them attacking and whatever. So, in um what is it in Back to the Future, there's a line where you know Principal Strickland is saying, your whole your whole family has been, a bunch of losers. Nothing's gonna change, right? Or
Yep.
whatever. And you know what, do you remember what Marty McFly says?
He says, well, history's about to change or
History's
something.
about to change.
Yeah.
Did you ever catch that?
Yeah.
Did you ever think
Yeah.
about that? That
Well,
literally set up the movie?
yeah, it sets it up, and it pays off showing the growth of Marty's character at the end from the beginning.
Exactly.
I mean, he Marty was kind of a brat at the beginning, but he evolved because he saw what happened there. I mean, there's a lot more angles in Back to the Future because time travel just presents that for for a lot of pieces. But with Karate Kid 2, it was very straightforward with that point showing that Daniel did evolve, and that so on that note, obviously karate it is Daniel's story. That's Daniel's story, but Miyagi's story is that he had the honor. He was honorable and stepped away instead of fighting to the death for something back then. He came back to honor his family, and the only thing that could ever get him to fight would be some his close family member in danger, and it's only to protect them. Or at the end, he was ready to fight Sato because the village
Yeah, because he was going
was
to
the
destroy the
village.
village,
Yeah,
which
he's just like,
the village to him is family.
yep, yeah.
That's
So
his.
that shows Miyagi's um, place in the whole thing. And to me, this movie has always been right there. And I'm glad because I know when we did the Cobra Kai podcast, I know you were a little different take on Karate Kid 2 at the time. So seeing it, and that's something that's really good too, just in general, is sometimes don't close off something that's so not you, just in anybody in
Right,
general.
right. No, I get
If
it.
if um if if you don't like something at one point in life, you try it again in the future, especially if it's resonated that much with so many people. Maybe there's something that in my mind that I missed. I was like, let me give it another shake. Let me give it another try in a different. And as a kid versus as an adult, I see stuff totally different, and that's what makes it um,
Yeah,
so
I mean,
impactful.
once again, as a kid, I didn't care about history, didn't care about going to different places like this. Like this was not something that would have should have, interested me, right? Or whatever, just because of who I was. But as I grew older and matured, just like Daniel, grows up and matures at some point, he, I sort of started looking at these things and I said, I definitely want to watch this again because, I'm going to do the whole thing and maybe I'll see something differently. That's why I want to watch the remake because maybe I'll
Mhm.
see something differently that nobody else sees, most likely not, but maybe my thoughts will be different, but yeah, it's universally panned as one of the worst, and not even in a like not even in like it's so bad it's so good kind of thing that I have a low expectation, so I have a feeling that hopefully it'll go at least go higher than my low expectation. That's all I care about.
Well,
Uh,
sometimes that's what happens with some movies. It's like if you don't see it right away, like we were saying earlier, and you see it with such low expectation, it might be better. Or but
yeah,
then on the flip side, if you go into something you expecting everybody saying it's so great, you might be like, what am I missing?
sorry.
So, it's,
Somebody somebody just like, tried to go in my room and I'm like, you know. Um, yeah. So,
well, make sure they don't have a spear or something like that.
no, it
Or
was it was my dog. I think was yep, hold on. He wants to come in. You want to say hello to Rocky?
strike
I
first,
just
strike fast.
come on, Rocky. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come say hello to Joe. You like Joe. Yeah,
Now,
well,
now,
you
now,
like.
now with Rocky, is he named after like Rocky
No,
the movie? No,
no.
okay.
He is he's named after the Great Rocky Mountains, I think.
Oh, okay,
Something like that.
okay,
But
okay.
no, but I think he was named after Rocky sort of also because my dad does like the Rocky movies, but
Mhm.
that wasn't really because he's got a
Mm,
full name. I think it's something Rocky Mountain or something like that.
okay. Well, in the sense of Karate Kid does have a lot of Rocky
Yeah, there you go. So
parallels. Yeah,
yeah, so
yes, that's a
you sort of work with that. Yes, you do. He's
so
such a
so
sweetheart.
so it's cool that you've seen this in a different light, and I'm thinking I might because it's been a while since I've really sat down from the beginning to end on Karate Kid 3. I'm probably
Hmm.
gonna give it another shake, but it's like there's some things about it that I clearly remember that take away my love for or puts it in a different place. It's just than one and two, and I just thought this was a straight good bookend of stories. And I thought once they did 3 and 4, it was more trying to reach for money than anything else. I mean, obviously it's all money because it's Hollywood, but
Yeah.
there is the first two to me have a very creative storytelling that makes a lot of sense, and that I was so excited when they brought a couple of these characters back in Cobra Kai, and that's one thing with
Hmm.
Cobra Kai that's so wonderful. It's the it has the nostalgic element. Now there is a little cheese element or a lot of cheese element at
Yeah.
times too in it, but it also tells storytelling in a TV style versus a theatrical style, so they can have more time to develop characters, and they get to deal with the perspectives that you couldn't the arguments that we have with part one with Johnny and Daniel
Hmm.
that's the centerpiece of Cobra Kai at the beginning and throughout, but
Hmm.
is there differences? But in part season 1, 2, and 3, it's front and center. But bringing some of these old characters back and doing it in the right way. And I think they have, for the most part, done that in the right way. There's been a few things, like I said earlier, that rubbed me a little bit, but uh, that's what I'm looking forward to see how they close the series out and how they're doing this new movie sequel.
Yeah,
How
I'm wondering because like the new movie, Speak Whole Karate Kid. I hope that changes, closer to
Mhm.
when they start putting it out because I think it's going to because I don't think it is like I think it's another story because it involves Daniel and whatever Jackie Chan's character was named. But
He was like a
anyway,
janitor or something, I think, or right, yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, to kind of finish up with this story, because I mean, I like once again, I really liked it. But my favorite scene in the whole movie is the ice block scene because the whole time they're like, oh, like he's talking like, oh, you gotta look how he's standing. Of course he's not gonna hit the blocks that way. Blah 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 blah. Right? And then they're like, well, why don't you do it? And he's like, no, no, no. Right? And they're like, come on, you put your money where your mouth is, kind of thing like
Mhm.
that. And he's like, no. And then he's like, I don't have the money for this kind of stuff. And Chosen wants him to do it because Chosen thinks he can't do it because,
Broken ice or broken neck.
yeah, broken ice or broken neck. And then Miyagi comes and says, you think, oh man, Miyagi's going to get him out of trouble because that's what Miyagi does, right?
He doubles down with the
He
off.
doubles down. I mean, that's just the greatest scene. That's so
Yeah.
Miyagi because Miyagi
Yeah.
is sort of you don't know where he's gonna go, so
And those and that is a great scene. To me, what impacts me is all the little things that, and we've talked about, like when they go to look at the with the swing for the training thing, or when they're just walking around the town, or the introduction of Daniel when to Kumiko when they show up at this doorstep, and Miyagi says hi, and then Kumiko looks over at Daniel, and she just sort of freezes for a minute. And you can
yeah.
tell it's because she's smitten by him. It's
Yeah.
things like that. There's chemistry, and
Sorry,
the
Rocky wants to go
chemistry.
outside. One second. He is being a little monster today.
We'll have a few edits in this, huh?
We won't.
Uh,
I'm just leaving that shit in
okay,
there.
okay. But what I was getting at with the chemistry, each of the characters and the way that both of the tea scenes, and how the one of them was having the tea scene, Miyagi and Yukie was having the tea, and it showed Kumiko and Daniel looking on, and you could see that they had a bit of a love. I guess it was just a summer love sort of type of thing because it never established anything long term to
Hmm.
what we talked about earlier. But all these little pieces, the chemistry was just perfect. And this was Kumiko, the actress Tamlyn Tomita. This is her first movie. I mean,
Wow.
it's like I mean, and from my understanding, she became like great friends with the one who played Yukie. They
Oh,
did a
well,
few
there you
things,
go. That's
and she was devastated when the actress when she passed. But when the
oh
mom,
yeah, that's right.
not the
Well,
mom, but the aunt, or yeah,
yeah, the one
yeah,
that Yuki.
Nobu. Yeah, she
Right?
passed. They were supposedly they were filming a movie or just finished filming a movie together, and she passed suddenly. It was like it
That's
was
a
like
bummer.
2002 or something like that, like 20 years ago. But to me, this movie just has such a heart in it, and I mean, the first Karate Kid did as well, and I think that's why they go. There's parallels, but yet it had its own unique story, and to me that's what made it. It brought so much new to the table. It wasn't just rehashing stuff to rehash it. And they showed, and the crane kick was a perfect example. They tried to use one thing and it got shut down quick. So it's like he had to use new stuff. So to me, excellent double feature for anybody who hasn't seen it. If you haven't seen it, I'm jealous because I'd love to be able to see this for a first time again.
Holy shit.
But
I might have worked with her. I might
with
have had
who?
a scene with her.
With who? Uh,
Kumiko.
oh, Tamlin Tomito? Tomita?
Tamlin Tomita, yeah. Oh fuck.
Yeah, she has like
Well,
120
no.
or 150 credits or something like
So
that.
when I was in LA, I was in a movie called The Right Mom, where I played I was in a crap classroom scene, right?
Mhm.
And it was the best scene ever. I've kind of described this in other podcasts before, but like one funny thing happens is like there's the professor, who's giving back our tests. It's me and Jackie are one of the two two like classmates, and it's the main girl and her and this other girl, an Asian woman who's like sitting like next to me. I
Oh,
I didn't know. I did not know.
it might have been her.
I might
Oh,
have most likely been her. They have a scene like right after that, that I've seen the movie and it's I
interesting.
bought the movie. I need to go rewatch that because and you can see me in it briefly, like I'm kind of like I don't know if you can see my full face or not, but you can see the
Well,
side of me and everything. And I
yeah.
know
Well,
who I
if it is,
was.
that'd be an interesting point that we could discuss on Cobra Kai. The
Fuck, I gotta find
bringing it
that
all
out.
together, the whole series together,
Oh
because
yeah.
obviously because she's in Cobra Kai too. I doubt she'll be in the new season, but I mean, I don't know if story wise there'd be a reason to bring her back, but uh,
Yeah, so yeah, the way that it happened was like the professor was handing out grades to everybody, right, or whatever, and he hands it blah blah, and he talks to the girl about like he's gonna help her with some extra help to get this, because the story is good, but it's not as
mhm,
she could be better kind of thing. Then he comes to me and he goes, "Ooh," and he puts my thing down on, and I didn't know he was gonna do that, right? So I was like all sad, and then he goes, no, he gets to the next one, and then the director Roxy, who's fucking awesome, loved her to death. She was just started laughing and call cut, or whatever, and so we did it again, and next time he did it a little bit differently, or
mhm,
whatever. And none of that was left in the movie, unfortunately. That was all because that was so silly,
mhm.
that it just didn't get it was man, I'm like, what I wouldn't give to have that like scene like and in my reel, even though it wasn't actually used in the movie or whatever. But I think she was sitting like next to me and I didn't it's so funny. I've acted with people that I had no idea who they were, and I treated them like they were other actors, like period. Vanessa Williams from Melrose Place slash Candyman and a bunch of other stuff. The Black Vanessa Williams. She was in a Christmas one I was in. She made me really nervous because not because who she was, but she had like already yelled at everybody on the set. I don't know if I should be saying that, but like it happened and stuff. So I was like, oh God. But
Were you cutting up? Were you cutting up to make it or have to do something, say something like that?
was I what?
Were you cutting up or acting up to what
No,
she?
no, it was like she got the extras were brought in and stuff like
Gotcha.
randomly to like the house that we were
Hmm.
staying at and she thought we were making too much noise, so she comes over to us and goes shh, and we are like, I mean, I was not saying a damn thing. I was just on my phone. So I was like, oh, she's already doing that. Then we walk up and she made me nervous, from the very beginning because I was like, oh no, it's that lady. I've got to give a drink to her, as a bartender. Like I gotta give a drink to the lady who's already shushed us, like but in her defense, yeah, I bet it did seem like it was loud, maybe, but
Hmm.
nobody could hear anything, and we didn't think we were loud, So,
Hmm.
I mean, I think, yeah, as an actress, quiet on set, like
Yeah.
if there's say action, you shut the F up because, we know this, we know with
Hmm.
uh it was audio can carry, you can hear almost anything, you can hear like planes and other shit, so of course you might be able to hear a bunch of extras chit chatting outside, but they didn't, the AD said he didn't hear anything, so whatever, anyway. Sorry, I hate saying that because I don't want to make her seem like a diva, but like she
so that was somebody else. That wasn't Tamlin Tomita though. So
no,
I
no,
mean,
no, no. Tamlin
yeah.
Tomato, I didn't even
It's
realize who she was until just now, literally. And then I'm like,
mhm.
oh fuck.
Yeah.
but I was very happy to work with her because now I'm like, oh shit, I had a scene with her.
Yeah.
I get
But for me, if it like a summer romance, one thing, but s something else to me was like when I was watching Cobra Kai is I kind of wish there would have been a reignition of their, but they couldn't because then okay, Daniel's married and all that.
see
It
if they
just
had left him
wouldn't right.
single like his wife wanted,
Yep.
you
Yep,
know.
exactly. Or they broke up the family or something like that on Cobra Kai. I mean, some of the stuff that goes on in Cobra Kai with Daniel's character, it doesn't hit perfectly. Um, uh, but
I mean,
what can
he's
you
gotten
do?
to
But
see all his ex-girlfriends. Elizabeth Shue shows up, and and likes Johnny for some reason again. Like there's that spark, and I'm like, that was
it seems like she was through a little bit of a rough time, and it seemed like Johnny he might still have he still has the flawed edges, the rough edges, but you could tell that he's a good guy. He just makes. But I think that where Johnny's character is going in Cobra Kai is really good. That character, I like that. But
hmm
of course, by the time we might have a different take by the time Cobra the season comes out, and this is supposed to be the
Yeah,
final season, I believe.
kind of re want
Um,
to rewatch it before the next season comes out.
yeah,
I'm hoping
yeah,
that the next season comes out before the remake and sets up for the remake.
yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good.
Like
What
that
you
would have been what
what
I would hope, but I don't.
yeah, what you might want to do too is watch at least watch some of the scenes with these characters in it from Karate Kid 2 now that you've seen it in a recent time, and see how their characters have the scenes with Kumiko are very short. I mean, there's only a couple of them. Now Chosen, obviously, you see him in a whole different
I think,
a
yeah,
whole
and I
but
think that might
there's a lot of
be,
face off. There's a whole lot of face off though with Chosen's character in Cobra Kai that allows the anger to be flushed out, if you will. But
yeah. I think it'll be good because it'll be interesting to sort of now that I've seen Karate Kid Part 2 again, I can comment and say things because I hadn't seen Kid 2 in forever that I forgot it, like I just remember not liking it before, and then so now that I've seen it, I'm like, oh shit, this is actually really, really good. And I mean, fantastic. I I can't say yet whether it's better than part three. I'm gonna watch part three again uh and make up my mind because I still love all the Mike Barnes stuff. I love the uh can you teach me how to sweep, or whatever. That all that fun stuff. And then I absolutely have a huge crush on Robin Lively. So
mhm.
much so that I told her brother Jason that I had a huge crush on his sister. That I loved his sister. And he was like yeah, he thought I meant Blake, the one that's married to
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds, but
Mhm.
I meant Robin. So,
Yeah.
if I ever meet Jason again, I'll be like, I told you a while ago I really loved your sister. I meant Robin. Just so you know. I
There
grew
you
up
go.
I grew up on Teen Witch. I do like Blake. Blake's gorgeous. Blake is absolutely beautiful.
Mhm.
But Robin I grew up with. Like Robin, and then Robin Lively and Megan, God, what's her I'm blanking on names today. From Encino Man.
Oh,
Uh,
I know you're talking about too because she
yeah,
was in
Megan Ward. Ugh,
Ward. Yeah.
whew. Encino Man, she is the most gorgeous. And PCU and a few other things. And she's still, but like Robin Lively and all of them are just so freaking gorgeous
Yeah.
still. Like, oh, no.
Well, I'm interested to hear your take after you watch three again because from the writer standpoint, from storytelling standpoint, not just from a nostalgic or pride or this or that type of thing, I think you'll understand that one and two are to me they're better structured films. Three has three has I mean the stuff with Crease and with Silver. I mean I like that. I really like that. Some of the
Mm,
stuff that goes on with Miyagi and Daniel, I don't really like the angles that they tried to after where they built their relationship through one and two. I just thought it was kind of awkward in three. But
yeah.
No,
I'm
I
not
think
saying
you'll
now
see it
that
a
I'm
lot
like
more.
thinking about that. Like in part three, his their relationship did seem different, like they weren't he wasn't trying to teach him. It became
Mhm.
like because they had to separate them. They separated them and everything. And
Mhm.
Terry is the one who does it. So it does sort of strain their relationship and kind of but Miyagi is still Miyagi. He's still
Yeah.
there to protect him and defend his honor, do all that stuff, or
But with what they've been through with one and two, would they really let their relationship get broken apart by some um uh manipulations and stuff like that? And to me,
maybe, I don't know.
it
I'd
seemed
have to
it seemed
re
a little
I
forced.
I'd have to
But
watch it again and see if I think the same way. I'll let you know. We'll
there we
have
go. We'll have conversations on it at
yeah.
that point.
And
But
I'm sure we'll bring it up back in Cobra Kai when we do that discussion because
yeah, well,
uh
this is one series that I'm happy with sequels and overall that
mhm.
they're doing the TV series. I mean, it's kind of unique because not many.
You,
I'm trying to think of anything that has movies that did like a couple movies now, 30 years later or 40 years later, are doing a TV series on. That's I'm
you
trying to think if there's
should
anything else.
watch the ones that you haven't watched, like the remake and everything before we
Oh
do
yeah,
the Cobra Kai, because then you can tell us, also like where you see the series. Because I think what's going to end up happening with the Cobra Kai thing is it's going to be a recap of the first whatever the groups of movies and stuff, and talking to everybody individually about their feelings on the series and how it became Cobra Kai,
yeah.
and everything. So I think that's what's going to end up happening. So there's going to be a recap, then slash Cobra Kai together, as one episode. And I mean, it'll
Might even get two out of it, considering the topic and the length of the series and how many people are involved in it.
if I can stretch it out, we'd have to make sure everybody's there. Like it'd have to be an hour show or something each, and then just do it for 2 hours discussion or whatever, which can easily be done with me and John just together. Period. John Ward and I just talk, movie stuff like for hours, or whatever. We have to literally stop ourselves and
Does
say,
he have any feelings on outside of part one, where's his takes are on the series?
I'll have to ask him tonight on we're
Oh, the other
reviewing Evil
Evil
Dead
Dead 2?
2, but I don't even know. We may have to postpone it because he's doing another podcast and it's running late.
Gotcha.
The host is running late. So we'll see. If we postpone it, that's fine. Uh I'm all right with that right now, honestly. Weirdly enough, because it's not I guess it's due on third Wednesday, so as long as we get done before Wednesday, I'll be happy.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's I'll ask him. I'll see what his thoughts are, but I'm gonna guess that obviously number one is number one, number two might be number two, and it going up there, and then the I know he hates the reboot, like with a passion. So yeah, I'm excited to hear what he has to say because he was kind of disappointed. I was like, oh man, I want to do part two too, and I was like, I can't keep just having you on like everything like there. Like I'm trying to have like each person like have another guest and then have everybody come on. I thought that would be pretty cool. So
Well, my love of part two is I doubt that anybody else in your direct circle probably has a passion for part two as I do, compared to other parts of the series, even the original. I mean, I'm one to say this is just it's one and two together to me.
for sure.
People one might have some stronger elements of structure in place, but one and two together, it's just in the fact that like we talked about at the beginning that the transfer between part one and two, it just flawlessly moves forward, and I just
Yep.
to me it's one long movie to me.
Honestly, I kind of wish they didn't do the flashback stuff in the beginning
Yeah, there
and
was
they
really no
just
need for
skipped
it
it to
because
the thing because then it would have felt like it literally went right into, you know, uh,
Yeah.
went into the thing. But whatever. I
I mean,
once
because
again
the
they had
movie
to.
was long enough as it was. They didn't need it for filler or anything. So I mean, it was
No,
an hour 50, hour 55.
yeah, it
So
was a little long, but
yeah,
it went by pretty freaking quick. Like there
yeah,
wasn't anything it wasn't that bad. So I liked it.
yep.
All right,
That's good.
everybody. Well, I think that's it for this mainstream episode. I do want to do so. We talked about, I think, John and I discussed it. I think after Karate Kid, I do want to do the Ghostbusters franchise. So you will definitely be back for that, and everything. So, and it'll be funny because I mean, obviously, we just um this new one's coming out and we're gonna watch that. So I'm really stoked about it. I can't wait. It's gonna be fun. Um and it's gonna be fun to I just can't wait to see that. But Karate Kid is my jam, and I can't wait to keep discussing this, every month, bringing you guys. We didn't do it last month, because I got really busy, and then wasn't able to ask Joe. I wasn't even able to ask you to come on last month because I was super busy, and I don't know how busy you were, but like that last month was not fun. So, this month, seemed to be, I was able to get more things figured out and everything. And I can't believe this month's almost over. Like, it's like, dude, can 2024 slow down? You know, I think literally
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
going.
yeah. You need to say some of that, like in like Sato's voice or something like that. Or be like, where he was there, deal with me,
Yeah,
slow it, slow
slow
down,
down or I
because he
break
had
your
such a
neck.
the voice was so deep. It was just so impactful. I don't know. I
Yeah,
just
I love
one. It was
Sato. He
what.
was my favorite character.
Yeah.
I wish there would have been more of him, honestly, because he was such a fun character. He had so much level of depth with him that that even I think honestly he was a better villain than Kreese in a way, because he had more layers to him. Because Kreese, all we see is him one dimensional, like he's very, whatever, two dimensional, whatever you want to call it, but he's just very much,
Mhm.
he needs but man, there's so many different layers, and I think that came from the success of Karate Kid and Robert Mark Kamen becoming, just from that success, becoming a better writer too, and
Mhm.
able to take the take it a different direction and realize what worked, what didn't work, what he wanted to change, and what he probably wanted to change a lot was the villains.
And he did it quick. They did it quick too because I think they said production started 10 days after the first one got released or something like that. It was greenlit like 10 days after, or it started
Nice.
pre-production and stuff like that. So I mean, and
That's
having the
usually
idea,
what happens, because like Scream 2 was the same way. Once Scream was, the hit, they made that
yeah,
money. Scream 2 got greenlit, and Kevin Williamson already was like booking work and all this other shit, and they were like, "Fuck you, you gotta." They actually locked him away and told him he had to
hmm
write, because he was on contract with them if he didn't write and all that shit. And I was like, oh my God, when I heard he actually got locked in a room and had to write, it almost feels like he had like a gun to his head or something,
yeah.
sounds
Well,
crazy.
and more often than not, when they do quick sequels, it's usually a failure. Um, but in these cases with the Screams and with Karate Kid, it was the exact opposite. It's what they struck gold twice
Yep.
in in a very short window. Because Scream 2 was within 2 years at the most. If it might have been the following year, I can't remember. It was really quick.
So it came out in 96, but then it hit like things to like 97, like theater, video stores and stuff.
Yeah,
And I think 98 was when Scream 2 was out. So
yeah. So it
I
was two. It was
remember
2 years,
that.
just like Karate Kid. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
and I
Karate Kid was
remember
84
that.
to 86.
Yep, I remember that because when it came out in the theaters, I wasn't allowed to go see it because it was rated R, and my parents like were very strict on that. But they did let me watch it at home, right?
Uh,
But they let me watch it in the hotel.
Mm.
that I was staying at. Back then, I don't know if they still do this, but back then they had like a movie channel that showed movies that were just coming out of the theater
Yeah.
that was still that wasn't out on video yet. So you
Well,
still
now
had to
they do it
wait.
almost day and date almost. It's
Uh,
like theatrical, and now it's in the hotels. It's almost identical. But
oh, really?
the first scream I saw in the theater. I was working in the theater, and I put one of the prints together, and I was able to. I watched that first scene, but then I had to get back to work, and I was like, I don't want to step away
Yeah.
because after seeing the first scene of Scream just is it's one of the
Yeah,
main horror
you
scenes.
don't
Yeah,
expect that. Yeah. It
so I had to wait
was
a few hours to see it in its entirety that night, but I saw it the same night. But
well,
yeah, so
it's funny how just casting can make a difference,
mhm.
because Drew Barrymore dying in Scream. Oh, spoiler alert if
Yeah.
Neo's seen
But if anybody hasn't seen Scream yet, then they need to start watching some movies.
yeah, because like that's like sort of a
Yeah.
classic film. But anyway, so yeah, Drew Barrymore dying in Scream was the biggest like, whoa, you know.
Mhm.
And honestly, we just did a podcast on Freddie Got Fingered, and Drew Barrymore pops in that too. I think she was dating Tom Green at the time.
Well, that would make sense there, probably. She probably was
Yeah.
involved in the producing of
I
it
don't
or
think she
something too.
was. I don't think she
Oh, really?
produced, but she was in couple scenes, and I was like, wow, what a weird cameo to have. And then I saw like an outtake of like them making out, randomly,
Hmm.
like their characters just start making out, and I'm like, they got to be dating because there's no way
Yeah,
they
they
would
were.
just do that like actors. I don't know though. Maybe, but that's what I came up with. Anyway, but it was really
Yeah.
random to see her in that. So just casting Drew Barrymore in a movie like randomly pop up like
Yep.
that kind of
Yeah.
shocks audience.
Yep. And in this one, the shock with Karate Kid 2, the shock is that there was the closure of the characters at the very beginning, the Cobra Kai's, or they were in the credits they were just listed as the Cobras. They weren't the Cobra
Oh,
Kai. It
were
was just
they?
like in the closing credits it
I
said
did
as
not
the
see that. I
Cobras.
didn't notice that, but that's
Yeah, it just
funny.
says as the Cobras. So and then obviously Kreese and then the ref and the announcer. Everybody basically from minus the mom and Allie were there in that scene at the beginning of part two. It's from the end of part one. And
Well, it
it
was
was a
nice
nice
to see
wrap up
all
for
of them
that.
back, and then and from what John Ward told me, and I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe this is what he said, was that that ending for that ending with what is it or the beginning of part two was actually supposed to be the ending to part one, but they deleted that and put it into part two.
They deleted it from the script, or they didn't film it until the beginning of part two. Because there's like an urban legend that the beginning of two was filmed with one, but it was really filmed with two.
Oh,
But yeah,
okay.
there's debate, but basically a lot of the official releases say it's urban legend that it wasn't filmed with one, it was filmed with two. But
I
you,
guess
you
I'd have to
know,
look up Snopes at some point and find
yeah,
out if that's true.
and that's a difference between now versus then. And I think the magic of film then versus now, it's like everything about everything prior
Yeah,
to it even coming out, which can be good to know some things, but sometimes it takes away some of the magic sometimes.
yeah, no.
So
All right, everybody.
that's why we stay clear of some of these stay clear of some of the spoilers on some of these new movies
Uh-huh.
because you want to be genuinely surprised on them
Yeah.
when possible.
So people doing spoilers, once you see the movie, don't go on Facebook and tell everybody about it. Just shut the fuck up. Wait
Yeah.
for
So
tell
there's
people
nothing
that you
wrong.
liked it, but don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked it or I didn't like it. And then if somebody says why, then you can go into it in a spoiler noted post
Even then,
within
I
a
don't do
post.
that because
Yeah.
the problem is sometimes even when you're saying spoiler, then you could still accidentally see the spoiler.
Yeah.
I would say don't do it for at least 2 to 3 weeks. If the people haven't gone to the theater to see it in 3 weeks, that's literally, the meaning that they just don't want to. Like, because there's no reason somebody for 3 weeks can't go to the theater to watch it. or
So,
whatever.
so would it be all right to say like right now it'd be like would it be too early to spoil the ending of Gone with the Wind? I'm just
I mean, I
kidding.
don't
It's only
think
80 years ago.
what's that guy's name? That
Rhett Butler, Rhett,
Rhett. I don't
yeah,
think he gives a damn. If you
yeah.
you know,
So yeah, but spoilers, people just yeah, that's our moment get soapbox moment is like don't spoil it for people, let
just
people enjoy it
spoil.
or yeah, because it's
We already got like Twitter spoiling shit all the time and stuff. People going, "Oh, I've got inside information," and then fucking other companies have to go and say, "Ah, we got to change this around because
what
they already
yeah,
got spoiled about that."
yeah. I think people get some sort of um weird satisfaction from doing that. And it's
Mm,
like it's like when we're talking about Karate Kid 2. I mean, this movie was I mean it's what 30 almost 40 years old now. So it's just under 40 years old. So it's like obviously when we talk about stuff in these type of forums, I mean what we're going to talk about the movie. So it's it's it's
exactly.
it's a place that you're going to be expecting that conversation to happen. So I usually don't listen to podcasts on movies that I haven't seen because it's like I
Unless
would
I don't
expect it.
want to see them. Like, I really don't
Oh
care
yeah,
about seeing Madam Web. Like, I don't think I ever will. And
I did, but that's a different story.
yeah, and I just have no interest in it. So I I went on that pitch meeting thing. They do like pitch meetings or whatever, and fake pitch meeting stuff, and they're funny, and they usually point out all the flaws and stuff. I'm okay with watching that, because I haven't seen it and I have no interest in seeing it, and
Well, you know
you
what you're
know,
getting into, and if you pick it, you're like, okay, I don't mind being spoiled in this one
or
because
yeah,
I'm going into it.
if you see a podcast like this and it says spoilers, you know, and then you're like, I'm gonna go listen to this, right? And then you're like, oh crap, they just spoiled everything. Well, duh, we said spoilers, you know. So
Yeah.
spoilers in this movie that we spoiled the shit out of this movie. So if you haven't seen Karate Kid Part 2 and you're listening to our podcast, I don't know why, but okay, whatever. That's your fault. If you're like, damn it, they told me the ending of the movie, you know. Ralph Macchio wins, you know? Like, could you imagine walking out, somebody walks out of Rocky and goes, damn, Rocky didn't even win that match. Like, fuck, asshole, you know?
And
Man,
sometimes I leave the theater even on opening night, and I'll say there's two movies coming out, and that I want to see, and it's like the other one's getting out, and it's like people are talking about it as they come out, and I'm like sort of like I'm like I know that they're with their friends or whatever, and it's like, but it's
and
like
they just
I'm like
watched
I'm
it, so
yeah,
like,
I'm like I understand they got to talk about, but I try to purposely gear myself away from that conversation
yep.
so I won't hear it and spoil it. But then it's like on Facebook and stuff like that, people just need to not do that because that's just not
No.
it's just not. I understand. I'm hesitant to even say if I liked a movie or not because I don't want to impact if it's something brand new because I don't want to um impact somebody else's enjoyment or put some sort of stain on it in their mindset that
Yeah,
oh my
because
god
they
somebody
might
really
like it. I
disliked it.
mean,
Yeah, yeah,
or they
give somebody
might not
a fresh
like it. Who
perspective.
knows?
Yeah. And let a movie stand on its own or fall on its own.
But I will tell people how I really think, what I feel, and
Hmm.
so that becomes part of indie film cafes.
Yep.
Paul and I will say our true feelings, and sometimes feel other feelings get hurt, in the process. Some people don't like, especially directors. They're very passionate about their films and everything, and when somebody says they don't like something, it hurts their
Yeah.
ego. I hate to say it, that's what it is. It's ego.
Yeah.
Because
But
me
they should be
personally, I don't
passionate.
care if somebody doesn't like my movie,
Yeah. Well,
you
I
know.
understand them being passionate about it, but it's put out there for consumption and people's individual judgments on it. And I think that I know that when I do reviews with you guys on some of these movies, we don't, at least from my perspective, I know I don't take a personal venomous look at a movie. I look at it and let it stand or fall on its own merits. And then it's like I still at the same time, even if it's awful, I still try to either find some good in it because it's hard work making these things. I
Hmm.
mean, making these projects.
Not
So it's
easy.
like there's a respect factor of that, but at the same time, you got to be truthful for what you just witnessed. And sometimes
Hmm.
they're made to be made, to have a certain feeling, and sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. And back to
Yep.
Karate Kid, it works.
I thought so too. Absolutely. I
And
love
part two, yep, one and two are top notch.
it. Yep. Well, thank you, Joe. This has been awesome. Everybody else, hope you guys enjoyed this and got spoiled. And join us, well, join me next month where I'll be doing Karate Kid Part 3. Who's the special guest? We'll find out because I have somebody in mind, but we never know until, about to do it. So, if not, I have another person in mind. So it'll be fun. Like no matter what, we're gonna have a new person and it's gonna be an interesting year, season of this stuff. And also join us for Hollywood Boulevard podcast where Joe, myself, and Alfred Crane does our podcast. We just did Billy Madison. We're about to do what's the oh my god, I keep blanking on the name of it.
Metal, oh,
Megaforce.
Megaforce. I knew
Megaforce.
it was ME something.
Yeah,
I was like, what was it? Yeah, Megaforce.
Megaforce. Which I'm excited about. I've never seen it, so who knows? I may like it, may not. We'll see. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this, let us know. Give us a heads up, and we will talk to you soon. Until
Bye.
next
Oh,
time. Bye bye.
bye.